He accused me of cheating while running a secret life, so I built a trap brick by brick and watched him fall into it. I never saw myself as the vindictive type. Maybe that's why it hurt so much when I realized the man I loved, the man I shared a life with, had been living to realities. For 2 years, Ethan and I were normal. Bills split, dinners cooked, Netflix nights, the usual compromises that feel like home. Then the last year turned toxic. He started policing my phone, interrogating my schedule, inventing slights out of thin air. If a male coworker texted me about a project, Ethan sniffed accusation. If I got home 15 minutes late, I got lectures about who else was there. When I pushed back, he'd smirk and say, "Guilty people get defensive." The gaslighting was relentless. The worst part? I had done nothing. Not once. If it had been one weird night, fine. But the pattern sharpened into cruelty. He mocked me in front of friends, made jokes about my secret life, and made me feel irrational for asking for respect. I tried being patient. I tried therapy, gentle conversations, setting boundaries. None of it mattered. The accusations kept coming. Meanwhile, I did the chores, cooked his favorites, paid my share, and tried to keep the relationship from disintegrating under his suspicions. It was Maya, my oldest friend, my Redordai, who first broke the seal. One evening, she dropped by after I told her a story about another of Ethan's baseless interrogations. I handed her my phone to show the texts. She went pale, scrawled, and then slid her own screen across the couch like a card dealer revealing a trump. Ethan's dating profile was live that day. Single, it said. Looking for fun that same week. I froze. Maya explained that a friend had matched with him and flagged him because she recognized him from my Instagram. Maya didn't leap to conclusions. She'd been quietly collecting hints for weeks, not wanting to be the one to wreck my life if it was a misunderstanding. But this was raw. I didn't explode. I sat down hard and listened. Maya and I talked until my living room turned into a command center. Our conversations looped from disbelief to a cold clarity. If Ethan was this shameless, evidence wasn't enough. We needed a strategy. We needed to dismantle him, not for spite, but to make him accountable and end the manipulation. I knew one person who could help Olivia, my cousin. People always said Olivia and I could be twins if the lighting was right. Same dark hair, same eyes, but Olivia had that striking model presence that made men look twice. She owed me a favor from when I stood by her after a brutal breakup last year. When I called her and told both Maya and Olivia the truth, she was furious and immediately on board. What followed was the meticulous, cold-blooded plan that came to feel like performance art. The objective: expose Ethan's hypocrisy and take back what he'd. He built his lies around his pride and his bank account. We moved like thieves with a moral justification. Phase 1 was gym theater. Ethan was predictable Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Downtown gym, shower, selfies. Olivia used a friend's guest pass and positioned herself on the treadmill next to his favorite bench. She wore leggings that could stop traffic and smiled like someone who wasn't hiding anything. Within an hour, he was orbiting her, awkward and eager. The bump into conversation led to a number exchange and the first outward betrayal. I sat on my couch with Maya, guzzling wine and reading their texts. The messages were exactly the garbage we'd feared, him calling me psycho, complaining about the inconvenience of the relationship, and bragging about how she pays half the rent and cooks and cleans. The arrogance was palpable. We didn't confront him. We built the case. Olivia's role was surgical. She'd flirt, let him spend, hint at jewelry and weekend getaways. She'd mention a spa or a designer bag casually and watch him pounce. Within days, the cheap dinners evolved into expensive restaurants and pricey wines. A week later, the shopping escalated. He bought her gifts he swore he'd one day buy me. He bragged about his savings to her like a trophy, posted about single life in private chats while he came home to me and accused me of betrayal. While this theater unfolded, I kept the mask on. I was the perfect girlfriend, smiling when he left, making his coffee, laundering his shirts, even apologizing when he accused me of flirting with a delivery guy who literally handed me our food and walked away. The performance wasn't easy. There were nights I wanted to explode, to throw the receipts at him and scream. But my silence served a purpose. Let him be the caricature he was, I told myself. Let him dig. We started a ledger of sorts. Olivia's real name would stash gifts accidentally at his place and then bring them to me. Designer bags, a watch, earrings, an iPhone. Each item was photographed, preserved, cataloged. We kept an evidence locker, screenshots, voicemails, receipts. Money he claimed was for our future was being siphoned out in lavish dinner bills and hotel charges. The bank statements told the story he never would. The nest egg grew. The small gifts became flights and spa days. Vicky figured out to have him book everything on his credit card and then forget to Venmo her share, eventually Venmoing me. Directly when she did repay him, which she split with Maya and me into what we laughingly called the revenge fund. It funded massages, dinners, and the eventual final act. I remember the grossness of hearing him call me names on recordings Vicky sent. One message had him saying he almost gagged when I tried to kiss him. Another exchange had him calling me desperate and comparing me to household appliances useful, but unloved. When I listened to those clips, rage was hot and bright. I punched a wall once. The shock of pain grounded me better than tears. But the collection of indignities only crystallized my resolve. He'd weaponized contempt, and we'd weaponize exposure. We escalated. The next stage was the weekend trip scam. He'd bragged about a conference in a beach town 2 hours away, and Vicky turned it into her playground. She convinced him she needed $800 for spa treatments and shopping. He handed over cash without question. That money paid for Maya and my spa day, a decadent recharge while he sat on a fake fishing trip or whatever lie he invented. We posted some pictures from our little getaway, careful not to tag locations. But the image of us laughing in a bathrobe felt like a tiny victory. The rhythm of deception took on a brutal normality. He'd come home late smelling of perfume. I'd smile and say, I was worried. He'd accuse me of stuff that never happened. I'd apologize and log the offense. The ledger of his spending grew darker. A $15,000 personal loan popped up, withdrawals at boutique hotels, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. He'd been siphoning money from our joint account to his private stash, the cash pipeline for his fantasies. Discovering that felt like being punched. The financial betrayal stung more than anything. He was literally stealing our future while daring me to be the bad partner for calling him out. At 2 months in, Olivia moved to phase 2. Get him deeply invested. She pushed for a luxury vacation, talking up private bungalows over the water and romantic sunsets. It baited him. He started liquidating things. A vintage guitar collection he'd bragged about, an inherited watch, all to fund deposits for the non-existent paradise. He rationalized it to himself as love or escape. To us, it was confirmation that his priorities were broken. Meanwhile, I was quietly building my exit. I found a small apartment with Teresa's help, a backup plan I fed slowly, like patience into a machine. I set up a P.O. box, opened a separate bank account, and moved important documents. The charade was draining. Some nights I lay awake beside him, furious and exhausted, imagining the moment we'd flip the board and reveal the truth. It had to be theatrical. It had to hurt. Not because I wanted him ruined for the sake of cruelty, but because he needed to feel the consequences of his selfishness. Then, the engagement happened. He did something I'll never forget. He got down on one knee and proposed. After months of lying, after months of betrayal, he tried to use a ring as a lock. Was it to bind me? To look noble? To buy silence? I don't know. I cried then, not with gratitude. With decades of rage masked as wept sorrow, I told him I needed time. He suggested I go stay with my parents to think. It was a manipulation, plain as day, a way to clear the apartment for the other woman. I packed a bag, went to Maya's, and that ring became an accelerant. When he proposed, I knew our timeline had to speed up. We pivoted. If he wanted control, we'd flip it. He would think he was locking me in, when really he was fastening his own collapse. We staged the coffee shop meeting me with a microphone tucked discreetly into my collar. Maya in a car nearby and Olivia on standby. When he came, he confessed to financial ruin. That he needed a consolidation loan, $25,000, and asked me to take it out in my name. The audacity of a man who had been siphoning our joint account to fund another woman, who was now asking me to shoulder his mess, was dizzying. He promised to pay it back. I promised to consider it and left to burst into laughter with my friends in the car. He'd just offered us the keys to the vault. We played along, stringing him. We let the paranoia build. He called, begged, paced. In private, Vicky ramped up her neediness, feigned stress, stories about a sick grandmother, the classic move to wring sympathy in cash. He handed it over. We soaked in the irony. The man lecturing me about thrift was mortgaging our life for fantasy. Everything accelerated when Bora Bora came up. He was sold on the idea. Non-refundable packages, flights under both names, deposits everywhere. He drained savings and pawned his pride, every move making him more financially fragile. We had 12 days to execute the final phase. Those 12 days were a fever dream of detail. Olivia's texts kept him intoxicated. Photos of the resort, breathless talk about sunsets and crystal lagoons. He walked around like a man with a future prize dangling over his head. He took out loans, borrowed from his brother, and turned our joint savings into his personal slush. We watched, merciless, as he dug. On the morning of departure, we set the trap. He left for the airport with his suitcase and the glow of anticipation. Maya, Olivia, and I followed, not to chase a plane, but to watch him misstep. We sat at a cafe that had a clear view of the check-in counters, hearts pounding like kid conspirators. At the designated minute, Olivia sent him the image we'd crafted, a selfie of the three of us, smiling. Middle fingers up with one line underneath. Surprise. Enjoy your $17,000 vacation for one. Your fiancé knows everything. I will never forget his face. At first confusion, then the gray bloom of horror. A man trying to understand the world losing its filter. He tried calling, then frantically texted. The calls went straight to voicemail. He crumpled into a wheelchair of shame and panic right there in the airport line, eyes darting, fingers trembling. He was alone in the very public shame he'd been designing for himself. We didn't chase him. We waited. He stumbled back to the city like a man who'd been docked of dignity. He spent the day calling, leaving voicemails that ranged from denial to threats. We ignored them. I went home and left a letter on the kitchen table that would be the final truth bomb. Printouts of his worst messages, the receipts, the bank transfers, and a straightforward note: we know we kept records. If you contact us with harassment, we will forward this evidence to your boss, your parents, and publicly. It wasn't a bluff. He tried everything. Desperate emails, sobbing voicemails, texts from burner phones. He crashed against the walls his own lies had built. 1 week later, we booked a spa weekend with our revenge fund, posted a single photo each, and let his panic nest in the comment sections. He called until he was out of options. He showed up at my apartment drunk one night, leaving a spectacle on our building doorbell footage, which, of course, I sent to Olivia and Maya like a trophy. Security escorted him off the property. He was the man who had accused me of betraying him. In the end, he was the one exposed. Months later, I'm sitting in my new place, promoted at work, wearing things he'd bought for Olivia and me because of his own stupidity. He's working 2 jobs, paying down a wrecked credit score. He lost non-refundable trips and a reputation he cared about. I sleep well. I won't pretend this was small. We were ruthless. We weaponized shame, exposure, and financial ruin. Someone could argue we stooped to his level. Maybe, but the months he made my life a horror, the nights he whispered guilty like it was a verdict, those gave me permission. He'd tried to call me Roomba who pays rent. He learned the cost of that statement. When karma arrived, it looked like a receipt with his name on it. There are people who will say, we went too far, and maybe that's true. I won't defend every choice like it was noble, but I will not apologize for surviving. When the dust settled, I didn't bask in revenge for long. The wind felt hollow beside the life stolen by late-night fights, the wasted trust. What mattered most was the after, my peace, my independence, the quiet rebuilding. I moved into a place of my own, consolidated my life, and reconnected with friends who respected me. Olivia and Maya and I still laugh about the absurdity of it all. But we also remind each other, boundaries matter, and sometimes the only person who will enforce them is you, Ethan. He's learning the practical consequences of choices. I hope he learns empathy, or at least honesty. Me. I'm doing better than I could have hoped. I have a new apartment, a promotion, and real friends. I kept the evidence locker for when necessary. I tossed the rest. Sometimes justice looks messy. Sometimes it's exactly what you build when nobody else will help you build it. If you're in the middle of something, trust your instincts, document your reality, and surround yourself with people who will show up for you without asking what's in it for them. Don't let anyone gaslight you into silence.